In the previous lesson, we saw how we can create kind of a smartphone layout for user interface, user experience. Well, this is just the basic, just to define a simple artboard for a smartphone. And then we saw how we can link this Photoshop file into another Photoshop file and do kind of a simple photo montage to see how the smartphone app or the smartphone layout would look in an actual smartphone picture. So you find a lot of similar examples when you go here and create a new file and you go in the template. For example, if you go in the mobile, you see the app, this one here, which is from Adobe Stock, which is pretty similar, and you can just substitute the like placeholder here with the image that you want. So we did this in the previous lesson. We saw how we can build a kind of a photo montage to see the picture directly inside an environment that we like. Now, in this video, we're going to continue with this art and illustration. We already saw film and video, mobile, web, print, photos, simple photos. And in this lesson, I want to do kind of a Polaroid photo effect. So I'm going to use the art and illustration. And you can see we have like 1000 times 1000 pixel grid. And so we have this square format. And here you have the possibility to change your pixel and the resolution. I'm going to keep the resolution as it is at the moment, but we could change it later, or we can change the size. But let's just start with this, and the background will be white. So I'm going to create, and that's going to be like the background of my Polaroid picture. So I can add already an image. So I can go here to import image, and I go in my photos, and I want to also work with the perspective here. So I'm going to choose a photo which is good for perspective. So let's say maybe I use this one here. Or let me see here if I have something else. Well, let's go for this. So I'm going to place this. And I want to make, again, that Polaroid effect. But with that excuse, I want to show you more features here, more commands that we can use. So first of all, I can flip this. And I can say done. So that image is going to go there. Now remember that when you insert and you open an image using import down here, well, that's going to be a smart object. And thanks to the smart object, I can change the document many times, and I can retrieve the original information of the image if I go back. If I rasterize this, I cannot go back. If I like close and reopen the document, I cannot retrieve the original information until or unless I re-import the image. So let's go here in image. So this menu, we saw that it's not about the image contained in the layer, but it's about the overall composition. So we could call this the canvas. So it's about the canvas mainly. So we saw the rulers and grid, we saw the guides, and here we have some quick actions. So you have image size, crop, trim, rotate. Now, some of these actions can be also available here in the image menu. So let's see here. Let's start with the menu. So if I go to mode and I change, for example, to grayscale, it's going to tell me that changing this mode can affect the appearance of the layers. So each single layer. And so if I flatten this out, so let's do like flatten, and it's going to ask us to discard the color information. So let's say that I want to discard. Okay, now we have a black and white image or scale of gray, and you can see here we flatten everything out. We lost the division of the layers. We don't have the layers that we have before, so I've lost those information about the image. So if I want to have the original image again, I need to go to File and Place Embedded again. Or I can go back, Control Z. But if I, again, save everything and close, so let's say that I save these as lesson 08, and then close, well, in that case, I cannot retrieve that information. So be careful when you do changes here in the document, in the Canva. Another one would be like to go to indexed color. And again, it's asking me to flatten layers. So we have some extra options here. For example, I can define number of colors. So let's say I want only like 5 colors. You can see it's getting really, really bad in there, kind of a old web looking. There you go. And then you lost again the original smart element right there. So that's another example. We can change from RGB to cyan epsilon K. And again, this is asking us right now if we want to flatten or not. Well, don't flatten. And now if we want to rasterize or don't rasterize, well, don't rasterize. And now we need to convert to the cyan epsilon K. And let's say okay. So we now converted, but we still have the smart object right here. So for printing purposes, it's better to use the cyan epsilon K color, and you can go back to RGB, but remember not to flatten and don't rasterize, otherwise you lose the information and you need to go then to re-import. And then you have other options here like lab color. And again, it's asking me to flatten or rasterize, and I don't want to do that, and so on. So be careful what you pick here, because there are like some modes that are better for some purposes. So for printing, let's use this, and for digital, we will use the RGB. Now, if we continue here, we have adjustment. I want to talk about color correction and adjustment in another lesson, but just to show you, if I apply the brightness and contrast, I can work with this correction or alteration effect right here. So let's say that I want to increase the contrast. Now, use legacy is like the old-fashioned stuff. So it's like how the Photoshop application would behave previously. And of course, always check if the preview is on so you can see everything real time. But again, we're gonna come back to this later. But what I want to show you is that you have some automatic coloring feature here. So you have auto tone, and then you have auto contrast and auto color sometimes. Well, in this case, I cannot do this, probably because I am not in the correct color mode. So if I change to RGB, and again, without flattening and without rasterizing, well, I can come back here and use that. You have also auto color. So now I can do all of the three: auto tone, auto color, and that's gonna quickly fix a little bit my coloring in the image. So if you want more customized solution, you go to adjustments, but we're gonna talk about this later on. I wanna talk more about the image and the importance of understanding the difference between the image and the Canva, and how we can make it smaller, how we can trim, and how we can use these other options right here. Now, duplicate is really easy. When you duplicate, it's just going to create another document here. So it's going to be lesson 08 copy. So this is really straightforward. Let's go back. And let's go back to image. And let's go to image size. So when you go to image size, well, that's the 100% of the image right here. And then you can zoom out a little bit. So this is going to be the image. And then you have the image size in terms of the heaviness of your file. So to approximately 3 megabyte. And then you have dimensions, which are expressed in pixels because we started with pixels. But if I change this here, I can say, okay, I want to see this how big it is in centimeters. And you can see that right now, these amounts of pixels, so 1000 pixels, at this resolution is going to give us this size, this file size in centimeters. So if I want to know how big this will be when I'm going to print this, I can see it right here. And what if I want to change this? Well, I can change it here. So I can say that I want a picture that it's, I don't know, let's say 10 centimeters times 10 centimeters. with 300 pixels per inch. That's going to give me here, if I want to know, I can change this, sorry, here. I can change this to pixels, so I can see the exact amount of pixels that are going to be inside a 10 centimeters times 10 centimeters photo with 300 pixels inch resolution. So this is a really handy tool that can help you to discover the conversion from pixels, so digital world, into centimeters or inches, which is the printed world. And also you have the possibility here to resize. So if I want to increase, and so this is actually bigger than the original because you have more pixels here. So if you want to increase even more, so let's say that I want this to be like 20 centimeters times 20 centimeters, you see the pixels is going to get bigger and bigger. Now there's no problem here because I have a really big picture, so I can scale up and upsize as many times as I want until I reach like 4K. And after that, well, those pixels won't exist in my image. So the software is gonna like invent those pixels. So if I say that I want this, let's say 50 centimeters times 50, so I don't have this amount of pixels in the original image. It's gonna just start to recreate the missing pixels that I don't have. Well, in that case, it's going to do kind of a artificial intelligence job. So it's going to, again, figure out what are the missing pixels. It's going to automatically generate those. And this is called also resampling or interpolating. So if you go here, this is automatic, but you can choose. So you can say preserve details with enlargement. So when you upside, when you don't shrink, and then preserve details 2.0, bicubic smoother, so if you want a smoother effect, and here the bicubic sharper when you're doing a reduction, so when you downsize, when you shrink. And then you have others. So bilinear, I think it's the one that is less advanced. The other are like most advanced, and you can choose this and see which one works the best, or you can just go for automatic and that's it. So if I say okay, now the image is gonna look more or less the same, but it's gonna be bigger, so it doesn't fit the screen anymore. So I hold Alt key and scroll to a little bit of zoom, and you can see now it's just a bigger image, and Photoshop it's just automatically calculated the missing pixels, but you can see everything is looking fine. Now another thing is when you rasterize and then you scale down and then you scale up again, but we already saw that in another lesson, so I don't want to go back to that. Now another thing you can do is when you click outside here with the movement tool and you go into the Canva, is you can also go here, quick actions, you can also go here to image size, and you can do the same exact thing right here. So if I want to go back and scale back to the original, I'm just going to type here 10 centimeters, or I can change here to the pixels, and also here you can change to pixels, and let's set this to be 1000 times 1000. And I can also drop down the resolution. So if I drop down the resolution, it's going to decrease the size even more. So you can see that if let me just go back to centimeters. If I type 10 centimeters with 72 pixel per inch resolution, this is going to be way smaller than the one that we had before, because that was a 300 pixel per inch. So it was bigger in the size and also in the heaviness. It's also going to tell you here how it was. It was 99 comma 8, now is 3, because we went from like 5K to 1K essentially. So at the beginning could be a little bit confusing, but then you get the grasp on this. So what I want to do is just use pixels. I want to use 1000 pixels and say okay, and then it's going to get smaller again. But the image inside will not lose quality because it's a smart object. It's an advanced object. It's not a rasterized layer. So let's continue. And also let's go back here. You also have crop. Now, when you crop, we also have generative uh, tools here, but I don't want to do that right now. I just want to show you how to crop. And if I crop right now, let's say I want to crop like this, and say okay, well, that's gonna crop everything. It's not gonna crop just the image, but it's gonna crop the entire Canva, the entire frame. So let me just go back, Control Z. And also again, let's do it again. So if I crop like this, and this is the crop tool, by the way, here on the left side, you can also choose to delete the cropped pixels or keep the cropped pixels. This is really important. And also you can decide if you want to fill the additional stuff with something. So background will be here. The background color would be the white, or you can do generative or content aware, but we're gonna see those later. So if I increase the size here, well, that's gonna, you see, fill with extra white space. So you can either crop, but you can also expand. Now, if I delete the cropped pixel, let's do this, and I move the image up, you can see we still see those images because this is a smart object. Now let me just go back, Control Z. And again, I want to crop and I want to delete, but now let's rasterize the layer. So right click, rasterize layer, crop the image like this. And now if I move the image up, you can see I've lost those pixels. Those will be definitely deleted. Again, that's the difference between rasterized and smart object. Let's go back. Now, if you don't want to lose any pixels, you can always uncheck this. So it's not going to delete the cropped pixels, and you can always retrieve them, whether you are in a situation that you're using rasterized layer or advanced or smart layer. Okay, let's go back, Control Z. So you can resize, you can crop, you can trim. Now, trim is, again, a little bit different. This is going to trim based on the color. So if I say that I want to trim everything here, let's say from the top left pixel color, it's going to trim anything that is not useful. So it's just going to leave the image essentially. Now, if I again go to trim and select only to trim away only the left side, it's just going to remove the left side. It's going to keep the right side here of the margin. So this is like white margins. Okay. And if I have a bigger image, let's say I have like a bigger image like this. Now, if I say here, if I go to image, let's confirm first. And if I go to image, I can now say reveal all. Look at that. It's going to reveal the entire content. So it expanded the canvas size. So if I go again here in the canvas size, you can see it's slightly bigger than before. It's not 1000 times 1000 anymore. Now let's set this back to 1000. And it's going to tell me that, well, that's going to be smaller. So I'm going to clip something here. So let's proceed. And there you go. It's just clipped it, part of the image. But that's going to be in there because I didn't didn't delete the pixels. So I can always retrieve those hidden pixels behind the Canva margins here. Again, let's go back to image. And now let's do some rotation. So if I rotate 90 degrees, nothing interesting will happen. But what if I rotate arbitrary? So let's say I want to rotate like 30 degrees clockwise. Say OK. Now look what happens. So it's going to rotate, but since I'm rotating the content, well, it's figuring out that it needs more space. So it just enlarged the canvas size. So if I see here, this is going to be larger. And if I rotate even more, so let's again go to image and rotation, arbitrary again. Let's rotate even more. Let's rotate 45 degrees. Again, it's getting bigger and bigger because the content itself is getting bigger and bigger. So in order to make it fit, it's going to enlarge the image more and more. So that's another difference between working with the Canva and working with the other transform tools for the image. So if I select the image and I go here and rotate here, well, that's not going to affect the size of the Canva. It's just going to affect the rotation of the image and the part that is going to go outside will be just cropped out, or well, it's not going to be visible essentially. And that's another difference between working with the image in the layer and working with the canvas. So you need to make this really clear in your head, that there are two different things: the image inside the layer and the overall image here, the composition that is in the canvas. Now let's proceed here. We saw all of the three. Rotate is the one that we just saw, and well, that's pretty much it. Now if I want to crop just this image, well, in that case I can select this and I can proceed here. We have some options here we're going to see later. And if we click here, we do have more properties, but essentially this is where we can transform. But if I like make this a little bit smaller, let's make like this 800 and pixel, you can see it's going to be like stretched, so that's not good. So I need to crop part of that image. Let's go to crop, and now you can see here that we have some options here, but we don't have an option to crop just that image in there. So we only can crop everything here, which is not is not good. So what I'm going to do is crop using the selection. So I'm just going to select here the part that I want. So let's say I want only like this part here. Okay. And then I will delete the opposite. And to do that, I'm going to invert the selection. So I'm going to go right click, select inverse, and delete. So now we have this like square part. And you can see the selection is still on. So right click, deselect. And then I'm going to move this down like this. And we have kind of a Polaroid effect. Well, it's not the exact Polaroid, but just to get the effect. Now, another thing we can do is work with the margins. So if I want more margins there on the side. So what I could do is go again and change the, well, we work with the image size, but let's go with the canvas size. Now this is again just a little bit different. So here you can decide how bigger you want if you use relative. So let's say I want to expand 200 pixels more in every direction, and I want to keep the image either anchored at the center or to the top or to the bottom or to the side. So let's say I want to anchor this to the top. So the top is going to stay the same, everything else will be scaled. And it will be increased by 200 pixels if you use relative. If you uncheck relative, you can see the final result, which is going to be 1200 pixels. So you can work with absolute and have the totals, or you can use relative, and you can just insert the extra that you want to place. So if you say okay, now you're gonna see that this is gonna be bigger, and it also reveal some part of the image that we didn't actually crop out with the selection. So again, I'm gonna select this. You can also select like this, and then delete with the delete key the extra content that you don't want, and then deselect also from the bottom here. So I can now move this around again to have that kind of a Polaroid effect, more or less. And what else? So you can also make this smaller again using canvas size, and you decide the point that you want to anchor. So you want to anchor in the middle. So let's take off relative. Let's say like 500 times 500. So this is gonna now crop part of the image out because the image is bigger than the size that we get by decreasing here the number of pixels. So you can work with this, adding or taking off the margins. You can also change the canvas extension color to another, like black or gray, or the foreground, which is this one here, is black, and the background, which is this one here, is white. Or you can also define another. So if I say like red and add another like 50 pixels here and 50 pixels on the height, so it's going to have another extra frame. And so you can continue with these more and more, depending on how you want to do this. So once you understand this, again, it's really easy to work with it. So you can add frames and multiple times. Just gonna leave like this. Now to finish up the lesson, I want to show you some extra features here that we have in the edit. So we talked about the puppet warp, and now I want to show you the perspective warp. Now perspective works with the perspective mainly. So it's used to fix the perspective. So first of all, I need to find out the perspective here. So I'm gonna move these grid corners in order to like create a cage around the actual perspective here, which should be something like this. Follow the lines that you have in the image like this. Okay, when you're ready, you switch to warp. And now, well, you have also here some indications. Now you can make this vertical, but making this vertical means that it's going to deform the whole image. Or you can fix the horizontal. So this is now vertically and horizontally flattened, and it's not a perspective anymore. And again, this is all artificial intelligence reconstructing the missing pixels there, but we don't have anything here, so we need to crop out that part because we cannot create anything in there. Or you can use together vertical and horizontal straighten feature. Now, if you don't like this, you can always reset, and you can always arrange the perspective how you want it by using the pinpoints here. So you can just fix it slightly if you don't wanna fix it too much, if you don't wanna straighten that too much. So again, it's just another warping feature. And let's say that I'm fine with this. I'm gonna say okay, but then I wanna remove all that part there. So let's say I wanna use the crop and like crop out like this part here and this part here. And I wanna keep this square. So I'm gonna go to ratio. I'm gonna do the 1:1. So it's gonna keep the square. And let's say that, okay, let's say that this is fine, like this, and then say okay, and now this is my Canva. But now I want to make it again another size. So I want to go to image size. I want to make this precisely 1000 pixels times 1000 pixels. So I need to uncheck this constraint. So it's going to be perfectly 1000 times 1000. Okay. And there you go. So again, we have back in the 1000, and you created a lot of pixels here. If you see, you may see if you zoom out, it just generated pixels thanks to artificial intelligence. And now we're gonna go again to Canva and add some margin. So I'm gonna say I wanna like, uh, again, 200 pixels here, like 300 on the bottom, relative, and I'm gonna set this into the center and say okay. And well, yeah, we still have the image there because we didn't crop actually. So let's delete cropped pixel. So I'm gonna do another crop here. Okay. And you can see now we actually crop the pixels. And again, canvas size 200, 300. Okay. And now we have the transparency because we actually cropped part of the background as well right here. So you have two layers. The second one, we're just gonna transform it. So transform image. And again, we're working with the background here image, which is plain white. And that's it. So we have now a background, and I want to move these up just a little bit like this. And to finish up here, I want to show you another interesting feature, new feature in Photoshop, which is the sky replacement. So if I click here, it's going to automatically detect the sky here, and it's going to change it. It's going to change it to anything we want. So we can place like a rainbow in there, or a sunset, and we can do this really dramatic, and we can play a lot with this. Really, really cool feature. And also you can do some correction here. So you can play around with this and change like the brightness to make it more day or night, temperature to make it warmer or colder, and then you can scale these up and do other adjustment. You know how to do it. So this will be all for this lesson. If you enjoyed, please subscribe to the channel. If you want to support us, join the channel as a supporter. Thanks for watching. See you in the next. Go check our other courses and guides in the channel.